started at the automated car wash on Rosedale Highway in Bakersfield, California. You know the one? The big blue one with the giant spinning foam brushes that look like some kind of industrial sea anemone. It's the kind of place you go not because you want a good wash, but because you're too lazy to do it yourself and your car has a layer of dust so thick you can write your name in it. The Central Valley in late summer will do that. The air itself feels like grit. I was with Chloe that day. Chloe, with her sun-bleached hair that fell in messy waves around her shoulders, smelling like coconut sunscreen and cheap beer from the night before that we'd spent the weekend camping out near Lake Isabella, and my old Ford Explorer was a monument to our poor planning. Caked in dirt, littered with empty water bottles and granola bar wrappers, she was slumped in the passenger seat, her oversized sunglasses hiding the hangover I knew was brewing behind her eyes. "I feel like death warmed over," she mumbled, her voice raspy. She stretched, a slow, languid movement that made her tank top ride up, exposing a sliver of tanned, smooth stomach. That I forced my eyes back to the road, but the image lingered, the way the thin cotton of her shirt clung to her, the faint outline of her lace bra beneath it. That I'd been trying not to stare all weekend, a low-grade hum of want that was my own private soundtrack to our friendship. It was a familiar, frustrating ache that we'd known each other since community college, a comfortable, flirty dynamic that never quite tipped over into anything else. That I think we both liked the tension too much to ruin it. "The car wash will be soothing," I said, trying to sound cheerful. "Like a cheap spa day for the Explorer." She groaned and slid her sunglasses down her nose to peer at me. Her eyes, a startling shade of green, were bloodshot. "If it's soothing, why does it sound like a jet engine giving birth to a metal octopus?" I laughed. That was Chloe. Even feeling like crap, she could make me laugh. We pulled into the bay, the tires thumping over the guide rails. The place was mostly empty, just one other car, a beat-up silver sedan, drying off near the vacuum stations. The air was thick with the smell of wet concrete and synthetic cherry scent from the wash chemicals. I rolled up my window, fed a crumpled $10 bill into the machine, and selected the Super Suds Deluxe. The light turned green. "And so it begins," Chloe said, pulling her knees up to her chest on the seat. The movement tightened her jeans around her thighs, and I caught a glimpse of the delicate bones of her ankles above her scuffed leather sandals. Her toenails were painted a chipped, faded red. I had a sudden, unbidden image of taking her foot in my hand, feeling the warmth of her skin, tracing the line of her instep. I shook my head, clearing it. This was a special kind of torture, being this close to her, hungover and grumpy and utterly desirable in the confined, humid space of my car. The machinery whirred to life, the first curtain of thick, white foam descended, plunging the world into a silent, sudsy oblivion. It was peaceful, in a weird way. The roar of the brushes was muffled, a distant thunder. Then the giant blue rollers started their slow march over the hood, their tentacle-like strips whipping and slapping against the glass. Chloe leaned her head back against the headrest and closed her eyes. "Okay, you were right, this is kind of nice." I watched her instead of the wash, the way a few stray strands of hair stuck to her damp neck, the steady rise and fall of her chest, the faint pulse in her throat. My own heart was beating a little too fast, and it wasn't from the claustrophobia of the wash. That's when I saw him for the first time. Just a shape. A dark blur through the thick layer of soap on the passenger side window. A person, walking past the bay. It wasn't unusual. People often cut through the wash bays to get to the vacuum area, but he was walking slowly, deliberately, and he stopped. Right outside Chloe's window. I could barely make him out through the foam, a tall, lean silhouette. He just stood there, not moving. The giant brush rolled over his outline, obscuring him completely for a moment, and when it passed he was still there. "Chloe," I said, my voice lower than I intended. She murmured, not opening her eyes. "There's a guy." But as I said it, the rinse cycle started. A torrent of clean water sheeted down the windows, wiping away the suds and the view. The spot where he'd been standing was empty, just the wet, black asphalt of the bay and the hazy afternoon sun beyond. "What guy?" she asked, finally looking over. Her brow was furrowed. "Nothing," I said, feeling foolish. "Just someone walking by, thought he was staring." She shrugged, a graceful lift of her shoulders. "Probably wondering what two idiots look like getting a car wash while half dead." She gave me a sleepy smile that went straight to my gut. Or maybe he was looking at me. She said it as a joke, but it landed with a strange weight that I forced a smile back. Probably. The final cycle began, the spot-free rinse, a fine pressurized mist that beaded on the glass that it was the clearest the windows ever got during the whole process. The world outside came into sharp, shimmering focus. And that's when I saw it. On the driver's side window, pressed against the glass from the outside, was the perfect, detailed silhouette of a person that it wasn't a smudge, that it wasn't a trick of the light or a weird water pattern, that it was a negative image, a human shape outlined in the millions of tiny, repelled water droplets, that a head, shoulders, the distinct impression of torso and legs, that it was as if someone had been standing there, pressed flush against the car, and their body had repelled the water, leaving a ghost of themselves behind. My breath caught in my throat. What is it? Chloe asked, sitting up straighter. She followed my gaze. The silhouette was unnervingly precise, that I could even make out what looked like strands of hair fanning out from the head, and the suggestion of fingers splayed against the glass. What the hell is that? She whispered, her earlier lethargy gone, replaced by a sharp edge of alarm. I don't know, I said. My mouth was dry. It's like someone was standing there. During the rinse? That's pressurized water, that it would sting like hell. Who would do that? We both stared at the watery ghost on the window, that it was already beginning to fade as the water started to drip and sheet downward, distorting the shape, but the impression was indelible. A person. Standing right next to my door. Looking in, the final dryer blast kicked on, a hurricane of hot air that shook the car and finished erasing the silhouette from the glass. The light turned green. That we were done. I didn't move. Go, Chloe said, her voice tight. She was hugging herself now, her hands rubbing her arms as if she were cold. The sight of her fear did something strange to me. It mixed with my own, but also with a protective urge that felt dangerously close to possession, that I wanted to pull her to me, feel her body against mine, reassure both of us. I put the car in drive and eased out of the bay. The sunlight was blinding after the dim interior of the wash. That I scanned the lot. That it was still mostly empty. The silver sedan was gone. There was a family vacuuming out their minivan 2 rows over, and an attendant in blue coveralls leaning on a mop handle near the office. No tall, lean strangers. Maybe it was the attendant? Chloe suggested, though she didn't sound convinced. Checking for a problem? Maybe, I said, but I knew it wasn't. The figure I'd seen through the soap had been taller, thinner. The attendant was stocky, middle-aged. That we drove home in a tense silence. The clean car smell, usually so satisfying, just seemed to highlight the weirdness of what had happened. It felt like we'd brought something back with us, an unseen passenger. That I kept checking my rearview mirror. That I dropped Chloe off at her apartment complex on the east side of town. She unbuckled her seatbelt but didn't get out immediately. She turned to me, and the fear in her eyes had been replaced by something more thoughtful, more calculating. That was really freaky, Mark, she said. Her use of my actual name instead of some joke nickname felt significant. I know. I reached out, almost without thinking, and tucked that stray strand of hair behind her ear. My fingers brushed the warm skin of her neck, and she didn't pull away. That a current passed between us, charged with the leftover adrenaline of the car wash and years of unresolved want. Her lips parted slightly. That I could smell her sunscreen, her sweat, the faint, sweet scent of her shampoo. That I wanted to kiss her. The desire was a physical punch, more intense for the fear we just shared, but the moment passed. She blinked, looked down, and opened the car door. Call me later, okay? She said, not meeting my eyes. I will. I watched her walk to her door, the sway of her hips in those tight jeans, the way her sandals slapped against the hot pavement. My heart was hammering. That I waited until she was inside before I drove away. The next few days were normal. Work was busy. That I talked to Chloe on the phone, and we laughed about our hangover and the weird car wash incident, trying to dismiss it as a shared hallucination brought on by dehydration and bad decisions. But it lingered, a low-grade unease. Then, on Thursday, I saw him again. That I was grabbing a coffee from a place downtown on Truxton Avenue. That I was waiting in line, scrolling through my phone, when I felt that familiar, crawling sensation on the back of my neck. The feeling of being watched. That I looked up. Across the street, standing in the shaded doorway of a closed-down bookstore, was the man, tall, lean, dressed in dark, nondescript clothing, jeans and a gray hoodie despite the heat that he was just standing there perfectly still, his hands in his pockets, and he was looking right at me. His face was pale, gaunt, his hair was dark and looked damp, plastered to his forehead, but it was his eyes that held me. Even from across 4 lanes of traffic, I could feel the intensity of his gaze, that it wasn't hostile, that it wasn't friendly, that it was observational, as if I were a fascinating insect he'd pinned to a board. A cold dread seeped into my stomach, that it was him, the silhouette, that I was sure of it. The barista called my name, that I flinched, looked away for a second to grab my coffee. When I looked back, the doorway was empty, that I practically ran back to my car, my skin prickling, that I locked the doors and sat there for a full 5 minutes, scanning every pedestrian, every window, every alley. Nothing. That he was gone. That I called Chloe. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice casual. "Remember that guy from the car wash?" Her tone immediately became guarded. "Yeah? I think I just saw him, downtown." There was a long pause on the other end of the line, that I could hear her breathing. "What did he look like?" I described him, the height, the leanness, the dark, damp hair, the hollowed-out face. "Jesus, Mark," she whispered, I saw him too." My blood went cold. "What? When?" "Yesterday. Outside my building." I was taking out the trash and I looked up and he was just standing by the mailboxes, just watching me. I thought I was imagining it. I went inside and locked the door. I didn't want to sound paranoid. We weren't paranoid that we were being stalked. The thought was absurd, terrifying. Why? We were nobody. We had boring jobs, mediocre lives. We weren't interesting enough to stalk. "Have you told anyone else?" I asked. "No, who would I tell? The police?" A guy looked at me. "They'd laugh." She was right. "Just be careful, okay?" I said. "Keep your doors locked." "You too." We hung up. The fear was now a solid thing in my car, a third passenger. It had a shape, his shape. The next incident was more intimate, more violating. I was at home in my small house off of District Boulevard. It was late. I'd just gotten out of the shower and was pulling on a pair of sweatpants when my phone buzzed on the bathroom counter. A text from Chloe. It was a photo. Slightly blurry, taken through a window at night. It was a photo of me. I was in my living room, seen from outside through the slats of my blinds. I was sitting on my couch, head in my hands, looking tired. I remembered the moment from about an hour earlier. I'd been stressing over a work project. The text below the photo read, "Long day?" My heart stopped. Then it kick-started into a frantic, hammering rhythm. I stared at the photo. The angle was from my front yard. Someone had been standing in my yard in the dark, taking a picture of me through my window. I called Chloe. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. "Did you get it?" she answered, her voice high and thin with panic. "I just got it. I didn't send it. It came from your number." Ice water flooded my veins. "It didn't come from me, Chloe. I just got the same thing. A picture of me from your number." A terrified silence stretched between us. He wasn't just watching us. He was between us. He was using our phones, our numbers, to get to us. It was a level of violation that made me feel physically sick. My skin crawled. I felt exposed, naked in a way the shower hadn't accomplished. "I'm coming over," I said, my voice rough. "No. Don't. What if he's waiting for that? What if he follows you? Or what if he's here?" She was crying now, soft, hiccuping sobs that tore at me. I pictured her alone in her apartment, her face streaked with tears, her body curled into a defensive ball. The image filled me with a rage that was almost as powerful as the fear. "Chloe, listen to me. Lock your door. Grab a knife from the kitchen. I'm calling the police." I called 911. The conversation was frustrating, surreal. A bored-sounding dispatcher took my information. A stalker. Yes. Sending photos? Yes, from our own numbers. No, I didn't know how. Could an officer come? They would send a car to both our houses to take a report. It could be a while. It was 2 hours before a single officer showed up at my door. He was young, tired-looking. He took notes on a small pad, his expression neutral as I explained the car wash, the sightings, the texts. "And you and this young lady are friends?" he asked. "Yes." "No disputes? Bad breakups with other people? Anything like that?" "No, nothing." He nodded, closed his pad. Probably a prank, son. Kids these days, they can spoof phone numbers easy, hack each other's social media. As for the guy you saw, could be a coincidence. Bakersfield's a big town, but it's a small world. He handed me a card. Call if anything else happens. Try not to worry too much. It was useless that he didn't believe me, that he saw a jumpy guy with an overactive imagination, spooked by a pretty girl, that I wanted to scream. After he left, the silence in my house was deafening. That I checked every lock on every door and window twice. That I pulled all the blinds shut. That I felt like a prisoner in my own home. I texted Chloe. The police came. They didn't care. That I know. She texted back. Mine just left. That he asked if I had a jealous ex-boyfriend. That I'm so scared. Mark. That I am too. I typed back that I want to see you. Not tonight. Please. That I just need to feel safe behind my own door tonight. Okay. That I understand. Call me if you need anything. Anything at all. That I tried to sleep. That I failed. Every creak of the house, every rustle of the trees outside my window, was him. That I lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. That I thought about Chloe, alone in her bed. Was she asleep? Was she awake and terrified like me? I imagined her curled under her sheets, the shape of her body in the moonlight. The thought was agonizing, a mix of fierce protectiveness and a raw, selfish desire. I wanted to be there. That I wanted to be the one who made her feel safe. That I wanted to feel her skin under my hands, to quiet her fears with my body. The fantasies were vivid, inappropriate, a desperate escape from the terror, and they made me feel guilty and aroused all at once. The next morning there was a package on my doorstep. A small, flat, rectangular box. No postage. No return address. Just my name written on the top in a precise, unfamiliar handwriting. That I didn't want to touch it. That I stood there, staring at it, my coffee going cold in my hand. Finally, using a pair of grilling tongs like a complete lunatic, I brought it inside and placed it on my kitchen table. That I put on gloves. My heart was a drum solo in my chest. That I opened the box. Inside, nestled on a bed of white tissue paper, was a photograph. That it was a Polaroid, slightly faded, as if it were old. The image made the